get this going. Cool. So we are here with Moriah Hummer, artist extraordinaire. You're local to Fort Collins, is that right?
Yeah, I live in Fort Collins.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So Moriah, tell us how you got started. How did you have a single inspiration for art? Have you always been interested in it? And where did you go once you picked it up?
Yeah, how I got started is actually a pretty clunky story, but I think that's pretty true for most artists. We just kind of start somewhere and go from there. So I mean, I've always doodled. In class, I actually had a really hard time paying attention in like middle school and high school. And I was always just kind of doodling, but I never really did anything. I didn't take an art class. I wasn't really trying to become better at art or anything like that. I was really just messing around. Um, and then when I want to say 20, I kind of had a little bit of a crisis. I had always sang and I was majoring in opera. And it's something that my dad really pushed me to do. And he really wanted me to be this opera singer that like traveled the world and performed. And like my heart just wasn't really in it. I really hated auditioning. I didn't feel like I was good at sight reading. It I didn't love it the way that I wanted to love it. And so I decided to just like change my major overnight to like graphic design and art basically. Um, and it was still clunky from there. I had just gotten married and I actually took a break from school because I didn't really know what I wanted to do, but I fell in love with comics. And so when I went back to school, I studied studio drawing and really wanted to like illustrate children's books or illustrate comics, do some sort of illustration work. And I knew I had a lot of catching up to do because I didn't really make it. It hadn't been my passion growing up. I had invested all of this time into singing and I hadn't really invested any time into anything else. So I knew that I just had to kind of buckle down and really work on my craft and really get good at drawing. So you could debate whether I'm good at drawing still, like that's definitely debatable. But I'm definitely
There's no
better than
debate.
I
Come on.
was. I mean, I'm definitely better than I was when I was, in my 20s. Um, but that's kind of how I got started with art, and how I got started with Track Furies is I knew I wanted to make comics, but I was really struggling with like the idea, right? I was like, I don't know what comic to make. Um, and I just kind of I had started roller derby and I found it super interesting. And I knew that I wanted to make a comic that I wanted to read, that I was interested in reading. I just wanted to make a comic that I wanted to see out in the world. So that's how Track Furies was born. And it's really just about a team of roller derby ladies, and they fight monsters and crime in their town. All the main characters are women or girls, even the villain and everything like that. So I knew that I wanted to make a comic that was really about showcasing other women's stories. So that was something that was just really exciting to me, and it kind of started falling into place at that point.
And it's awesome. It's one of our favorites, and you're one of our favorites in the household for sure. I
Thank
want
you,
to
thank you.
backtrack a little bit, and
Yeah.
you said that you started reading comics a lot later
hmm
in life. What was the book that really got you into like more reading or got you interested in comics?
Um, Honestly, I'm not sure that I know the answer to that,
Well,
which
what
is
was one of your favorites when you first started reading?
I knew that I had a really hard time with like the 52s, right? That it's like so much history there. And like coming into comics, you're just like, okay, well, there's just a bunch of history in here. I don't want to have to go back to the beginning of time to like get the backstory and read what's going on. So I know that I read a lot of like adult dark humor graphic novels. Um, I did really love Watchmen. I know it's like a little cliche to be like, I love Watchmen because everybody loves Watchmen, but
Well, it's a great
it's
book.
it's just so good. Yeah, and um I read the League of Extraordinary Gentlemen, and that's like a really fun um by itself book. And so I just started reading graphic novels because they were self-contained. I didn't have to go
Right.
back and get a bunch of single issues. I didn't, so like that was like a really easy way for me to start.
Was there like a strong female role model book that you got into that made you really start thinking about drawing like more of the female form?
Um, I can't I can't remember if there was a specific graphic novel, but I can definitely tell you some of the ones that I love right now or that I've loved over the years. I think Batgirl of Burnside is like one of the best ones. Babs Tarr and Cameron Stewart did this amazing graphic novel. It's like the new Batgirl, right? It's this
Yeah.
Batgirl that was really for like millennials and Gen Z. Like she was fresh, she was interesting, and she was drawn in this really youthful, fun way. And I just I freaking love that comic. I think it's so great.
Well, you gotta love Babs on that book. She is
Mhm.
amazing in that book. I mean,
Yeah,
her art is just so good, man.
yeah.
And it really, I think it was one of the revolutionary like changes in Batgirl and her design.
Mhm. Yeah, yeah, no, it really was. Like the whole costume was different. And the reason, like the choices behind the costume, were different than previous years, and the way that they drew the characters and the environments they were in. Like it's a masterpiece to me. And I really love Saga by Fiona Staples. I think if I and Brian Vaughn, I feel like if I could grow up to be anyone, it would be Fiona Staples. Like she did things on her own terms. She like dictated her life. She 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 was basically like, I'm going to draw things and I'm going to make it really available for people to like see me online and interact with me. And I'm going to provide content, and then I'm just going to do that over and over and over and over again. And she's just kind of this person that can write her own ticket now, because she did all of the work, and like her name is the name that's important. So um, yeah, I don't know. I feel like she can be successful as an independent artist. Like if nobody backed her, she'd be fine.
Yeah.
And so I really love Fiona Staples.
Yeah, she's great. And I really like how single-minded she is, when she started doing cons and she saw that people were taking her art and like going down the road and selling it. It really upset her, and then she started just making this deadline policy where she wasn't going to do art, but she was going to give you that fan interaction. She was
Mhm.
still, and she was great. She's been to DCC a couple times, and every time she's just a great person to talk to. She gives you like really good stories and just talks about the art and the industry. But yeah, I like her quite a bit.
Yeah, I'm too nervous to meet her in person. I probably won't ever do that. I'm like, I'm good. I'll just admire you from afar, Fiona.
Oh. So, flash forward,
Hmm.
you started, let me share this real quick here. So, you started Track Furies.
Hmm.
And like you were saying, it's about a team of roller derby girls, and they fight crime and monsters. And the best way I could explain it to people is it's like Scooby Doo if they were roller derby girls.
Yeah, that sounds great. That's a perfect explanation. I'm gonna steal that from you if that's cool.
Yeah. You take it. That's fine. And it's great. I love it. I really like the how you kept it almost black and white, and then you just have the little bits of color that are kind of splashed into it, and the shading is perfect. Did you do everything in the book?
Yes, yeah, everything. So like writing, inking, like so yeah, writing, penciling, inking, coloring, dialogue. Like when you're one person doing that kind of stuff, it just takes so long for you to do a comic. Especially if you're like me and you have like a full-time job that you do normally. So yeah, it does take me quite a while to get a comic out, which is something that I don't love. But yeah, yeah, I do it all.
And I really like how each character has their own design, their own look. And you'll see like a lot of um, people who put out their own books, they have a very specific style, and a lot of times their characters kind of blend together because it's their own style, and they're creating these characters in that style, so they all kind of have a similar look. But your characters, they all look very different. You even make Dee Dee and her older sister like have kind of some similarities, so they're related. But then the other girls, and the guys, they all have their own looks. It's great. I love it.
Thank you. I I knew that when I did the comic, like I wasn't as good of an artist as I wanted to be. So I had to really be really like conscious of the decisions I was making. So I knew that like hair had to be really different, clothing had to be really different, like features had to be really different so that people could tell characters apart. I will say it was really fun developing all the characters because I got to represent a lot of different kinds of women in the characters, right? Like they all have their own personalities and they all have their own mannerisms and outlook on life. So that was really fun thinking about the different types of women that I've met and interacted with and putting them on the page.
Yeah, and you did a really good job with the lettering too. Your choice of fonts, the placement of
Don't you dare say that, Stanley.
why?
Take it back. You're okay, so you're showing so issue one is actually like I'm kind of embarrassed about it. I'm a little bit embarrassed about it because I did it in Photoshop and Illustrator. And so like doing the word bubbles was really tough for me and like cramming everything together. I think issue two and issue three are way better because I'm using a program. I'm using like Mango Studio 5 or like Clip Studio Paint is what we call it now. And it just was so much easier to do bubbles. And I had to think about like, oh, maybe you should think about the dialogue so you're cramming everything in there. But issue one, I actually hate it when people come to my table and I'm like, this is my comic, feel free to look at it. And they pick up issue one and they look through it. I'm just like, oh no, pick up literally any other issue. Because I think issue one is like real rough.
Well, have you ever thought about going in and doing like a director's cut or a redo or something where you go in and kind of fix the things that you don't like as much?
I think about it all the time. And my husband is there to go, you're insane. You can't do that. He's like, first of all, like, so I wanna do up to issue six. I wanna like do six issues and then smush them together and like put them in a book. So he's like, you can't redo the beginning because by the time you get to issue six, you're gonna be like loads better than you were in issue two. So it's gonna look really weird. Um, but mostly he said, when you um, it's important that people see the process. Like it's okay for issue one to not be as good so that people can see how far you've come from issue 1 to issue 6. Like that's part of the process and it's part of the journey. And I thought that was like pretty interesting. Um, there, there's a comic out there. I want to say it's V for Vendetta, where if you look at the beginning art and you look at the end art, like it's a lot different, just because the artist got better. And they talked about going back and fixing the beginning, and they were just like, no, it's just like that's kind of the way it works. So yeah, I don't know. I think about it all the time, and then my husband's like, you need to stop. You need to just you need to just live with your choices.
He does have a good point, because it is interesting to see how much you've grown as an artist, and you have. I mean, you can look at like your characters here, and
Mhm.
then let's see if let me come back here. And then so this is one of your latest,
Oh, you got it.
and we
Yay.
got it, and it is, I mean, it is amazing. Your style has really grown into itself, and it's
Thank
also
you.
just become very like much more detailed, you know.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm not as like my characters aren't as broad. You know what I mean? Like I'm not
Yeah.
afraid of like getting in and really taking a look at the detail. And yeah, I'm really enjoying where it's going. I've had a really hard time working on it with coronavirus. Um, I don't know if you can tell right now, but I'm in a windowless room in my basement. It has no windows. And this is where my desk setup is, but it's also like since COVID-19, this is where I work from home. And so by the end of the day, I'm just like, get me out of this windowless room. I need to see the sun. And so I haven't been working on it as much as I would like. And with all the delays with cons, we've been kind of working on some house stuff instead. But yeah, I am excited to like, I've I have begun issue 9. I think I'm done with like 9 pages, so I still have quite a bit to go. So I need to get back on it.
Nice. Yeah, and we'll be there at the first con you're at, picking it up for sure. um I really like the way that you draw people of color, and being a person of color myself, and like this one we saw it, and I was like, this kind of resembles my daughter,
Yeah.
in a way. And you have a very keen eye for like small details, and really bringing out the beauty
Thank
in
you.
people, in women in general. But just your the way you're drawing, the way that your art lines the faces, it's amazing. It's great.
Thank
Have
you.
you and it seems like you've really grown in that aspect.
Mhm.
Have you is that something that you work on quite a bit, or?
Um, yes. I think I remember I remember thinking about like, okay, I want to make a comic that really showcases women, right? Who aren't the side character, who aren't over sexualized. I really want to make a comic just about them, um, living their lives and being together. And I truly believe that like if you are a feminist, then you're a feminist for all women, right? Not just women that look like you. Um, I think that there are a certain amount of women who have attached themselves to that word of like I'm a feminist and I uplift other women, but people of other races still make them very uncomfortable. And so with creating the comic, I really wanted to have women from different backgrounds with different body types who looked different. And I just kind of fell in love with like all of the different women of the world. So many women are beautiful because they are the heroes of their own story, because they are comfortable in their own skin. And so when I'm sitting at a table at a con and I'm just like doodling, I really try to draw a lot of different women from a lot of different places. And I did an art show a couple years ago for CSU, and that was like really what I did. I didn't do any of the characters in my comic book. I just drew different types of women, and my hope was that people would see those different types of women and just kind of like look at women of color in maybe a different light than they had before. Maybe it wouldn't make them as uncomfortable. People tend to buy art that looks like them. I've noticed people tend to buy art that reflects who they are outwardly. Um, White women really like they purchase my art of white women, and Black women tend to purchase my art of Black women. Like people want to see themselves represented in art, and so it's something that I've worked hard for. I remember being in an English class at CSU, like when I was like 24. And we actually had to do like a political cartoon. And I remember I drew President Obama in the political cartoon. And my teacher came and talked to me, and they said, I really like this political cartoon because you managed to draw someone, like you managed to draw our president without accentuating some features that would make it look like a very racist drawing. And I remember being really surprised by that. But then I like went to the newspaper, right? And I like looked up I looked at a lot of the political cartoons, and that's kind of what happens, right? Like they
Yeah.
draw caricatures. They draw caricatures of people, and they tend to really cross the line in some instances of like what is appropriate and what isn't. So I remember him saying that, and feeling really really good about that because it's not something that I realized at the time.
So with the cons on hiatus for a while, we're really missing our cons, our con people, our con friends. In some of these interviews I've been doing, I've just been asking, do you have a favorite con story that you want to share?
Favorite con story? Yes, I do. It was Denver Comic Con. Um, I was I was at I was at my table, um, and this girl comes up, um, and she's got red hair and glasses, and so she kind of reminded me of like my husband's family because they all have red hair. Um, but she came up to me, and she started crying. And mind you, like I don't like sell a ton of comics. I don't have this like crazy fan base. I'm an uber local artist. Like I do it for fun. But she came up to me and she started crying. And she said, "Thank you for making women that look like me." And she's definitely like a curvier woman, and she was talking about Val. She was talking about how Velociraptor is like this bigger, taller woman who's not this like, dainty little cute girl. And she just said, "Thank you for making women that look like me." And I just burst into tears. And we got to talking, and she played roller derby, and her name was Little Bo Creep, which I think was the cutest name. But yeah, we're still like friends to this day. So yeah, it was a moment where I was like, holy crap, you don't realize like what you wield when you make a comic, like what's possible when you
And
do something like
yeah, and that is amazing. And I was going to bring that up as well. So you, in your first issue, you have this character Vel,
this. Hmm.
who's kind of being picked on by some of the other girls on the team, and she's doesn't feel good about who she is and how she looks,
Hmm.
but she kicks ass. She's the one who actually gets rid of the monster in that first book. and she's accepted by the Flat Track Furies, and they take her on as one of their own. But yeah, it's great, because I want to say this was before Faith was even out, and so there wasn't really any representation of women
Mhm.
that were that are normal women, really. I mean,
Yeah.
honestly, I mean, the average body type is probably more normal to Val than
Mhm.
like a Schiffer or something like that.
Yeah, I mean, the average size in women's size in America is 14. And yet we still have lots of models who are, a size 0 or size 2, that we expect to accurately show what clothes will look like on. Like that's insane. But I really loved writing this because it's not like I'm not Hemingway, right? I'm not like writing something crazy incredible, but I liked that they were like, "Hey Val, why don't you come and join the Furies?" And they asked her to join not because of what she looked like, but because what they knew she was capable of.
Like,
And I think that's how we need to treat the people in our lives, is treating them with what we think they're capable of.
yeah, that's awesome. So you had a baby
Yeah.
now 2 years ago, is that right?
He's 18 months, about, yeah, a year and a
18
half.
months. Okay. So you love motorcycles, you love
Mhm.
roller derby.
Mhm.
Are you going into more exciting like extreme sports, or are you kind of calming down a little bit with the baby, or
I'm getting into dirt biking.
oh, so you're going further.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I'm The thing about me is that I have to be really careful because I will have 12 hobbies. And the fact of the matter is, like, you can't really have 12 hobbies. Like, you don't have time for that. Like, you really have to focus on what you care about and what brings you the most joy. I also like love baking. I really I love doing that. And with COVID-19, I've gotten to do more baking, because roller derby's on hold, right? Like we haven't had practice in a couple months, and like basically the season is canceled. We're not going to be um, playing or practicing together. And that's totally okay, right? Like, and we're not going to be traveling. So in lieu of roller derby, I'm going to master the French macaron, right? I'm going to like do it. Um, it's really hard, by the way. But yeah, um, dirt biking and riding motorcycles is actually a pretty safe hobby to have right now. It doesn't require you to be in like lots of groups of people. And you're on your bike kind of isolated away from people, so you have to stop and get gas, but really it's a pretty okay hobby to have right now. um yeah, and then also drawing is, of course, safe because you can just like chill at home. But yeah, I tend to be the kind of person where I'm like, I should work on comics in the winter when I can't do stuff, and do other things in the summer, when I can do stuff. Um, so I'm just kind of trying to balance, doing art, maybe baking in the evenings when I'm feeling it. I have been going on a lot of rides lately. And I actually have like a dirt biking camp this weekend where we're gonna go be outside and do like a dirt biking camp.
Nice. Yeah, that sounds fun.
Yeah.
Um,
I'm probably not going to go skydiving anytime soon. That
no,
doesn't
no
that
skydiving. All
really
right.
to me. Yeah, kind of.
I mean, you could just keep going that more and more extreme, route, and
No, because like heights actually scare me quite a bit. Not if I'm on a building, because I know it's like structurally sound. But like, no, that just seems so scary.
yeah.
So scary.
So, with Flat Track Furies, we're getting close to the end. It sounds like. Is that right?
No, I still have 3 more issues to do. So I've done 1 through 3. I need to do 4, 5, and 6. Um, and basically like arc it out.
So you have the whole arc already like bouncing around in your head.
Actually, I don't. And that's the problem is that if
Uh,
when you're a good writer, you do those things. When you're a good storyteller, you're like, oh, I'm going to plan ahead. That sounds like a great idea. But when I did the first issue, I actually didn't have a plan. And then when I got to the second issue, I was like, I'll make each issue about a specific Fury, right? Like in the second one, I'll highlight Val, and in the third one, I'll highlight Sydney. Like that sounds great. So this next one's about Paloma, and then the next one will be about Dee Dee, and then number 6 might be about Molly, but it might just be about like everybody. So yeah, no, I have not planned this out, and that is actually like part of the reason why issue 4 is a struggle is because I didn't plan it out. Sometimes you paint yourself in a corner with some things, and so you have to kind of figure out a creative way to get out of it. So that's yeah.
so do you, in the creative process, do you write scripts for this, or are you kind of writing out your panels as you're thinking about them?
I write out a script definitely per issue. Um, I with yeah, I definitely write out a script because if you don't, like that's like I think that's insane to not do that. I would love to meet someone who's like, nope, I just do it as I go. I would love to talk to them and like see what their life is like because it has to be pure chaos. Like it has to, you know. Just
So,
yeah.
do you do you have anything planned out after Flat Track Furies, or is that just your focus right now?
That's just my focus right now.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because I do it for fun. It would be cool if I could do it full time. Like I wouldn't be against it. I wouldn't be against like having like enough of a fan base where I could do it full time and like con life. Like I really wouldn't be super against it. Um, but yeah, no, like as it stands, I'm still I'm pretty small time. So I really just love drawing and making it.
You
So
know, it is one of those books that you can see you like being under the umbrella of Image or Boom Comics, a publisher that's not quite huge but not quite small either. I
yeah,
mean, it has the artwork stands up, the writing stands up. I mean, it is definitely on par with almost all their books, all those other books. So, have you ever
very
been
sweet of you to
approached?
say.
It's true, and I think I know you do. Do you strictly do local cons when the cons were going on, or did you travel at all?
I've definitely done Denver a couple of times. I've done Kansas City a few times in Oklahoma. Basically, Paul and I were like, we'll do anything within 1 day driving distance.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
I think your fan base could be huge, and like if you were able to expand a little bit. But it's tough with family. I could understand
Yeah.
that.
It
Um,
definitely, and I haven't been to a con like once we've had a baby. Oh wait, no, I have. I guess I went to Fort Collins, but like Fort
for
Collins is a
cons.
very small con, but like, um, yeah, like 18-month-old, like that, like you just need to have a lot of support,
Yeah.
right? Like when you go to something like that, because Paul used to go with me, my husband used to go with me, um, and he was there. Like if I had a queue of people at the table, then like I could finish up with one person and he could engage with another person, and that was really good at like retaining people at your table. He's also really great at like getting me lunch and like watching my table when I go to the bathroom. Like there's so much that happens, and like having him there is super great. But once you have a kid, you're kind of flying solo, unless you have a friend that can come and help you, or unless you can have a grandparent come and babysit. And so it's just a little bit tougher. And I haven't traveled since I've had the kid, because it's like, okay, then I'm traveling by myself. Then I'm like traveling to Kansas City by myself, and staying there and doing the con by myself and coming back by myself. And that's fine, but it's also like, um, okay, babe, have fun like watching the kid for, 4 days by yourself.
Yeah.
See you
Yeah, that can
later.
be tough.
Yeah, so
Um,
yeah, just kind of, we
yeah.
haven't worked that out yet.
Have you ever been approached by a publisher or sent your work in, like your portfolio in for review or anything?
I have definitely never been approached. So
Surprising. That
it,
really surprises me.
it's not surprising, Stanley. It really isn't. Um, I have, I don't think I have sent it in for review. Maybe I did once. I think I maybe did it once. There was like an open call, I think, either with Image or Oni, and I sent in my work, but I didn't hear anything back. So,
Huh. Yeah,
oops.
Oni would be a good one for you too, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, we love it. We love the work. I know the girls in the club love it too. They every year they
Oh,
ask, is Mariah gonna come to MiniCon this year? I have to remind them. Well, she's got a baby, and it's tough to get out there, so she may not be there this year, but maybe next year.
oh yeah, because the last mini was in a January.
We do it every January.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
I had him like Thanksgiving weekend,
Yeah.
and I was just like, oh man, like like I had had a baby like a month and a half before. I did not feel very good for a really long time after I had my son. Like it was really hard to physically bounce back. And it was really hard just with postpartum. Yeah, I didn't really feel like myself. I want to say for like maybe a year after
Wow.
I had him. Yeah, it was a really big struggle. Um, yeah, I don't know, it just messed with me quite a bit. And I just felt like it was really hard for me to like get back on track and feel like myself. And I'm definitely at a point where I'm feeling like myself, but yeah, coming back was really tough.
Yeah, I can understand that. I mean, I can't relate personally, but I mean, my wife, I'm
But
sure
you've had
could.
kids, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Um, was there any like one particular thing that really helped you that you might want to pass on to anyone watching this or?
um I think maybe just like talk to somebody about it. I was really afraid to admit that I didn't feel like myself. And so I actually had my husband call my OBGYN for me, um, and say and like schedule an appointment for me and like tell them what was going on, because I just felt really like ashamed to talk about it. And so yeah, you just have to like reach out to the people that love you, like reach out for your support system. um, Talk to a professional or talk to your doctor, and just like the things that you can't do, like you can ask your family to help you with. That's like totally okay. And it's not anybody's fault. It's just like your body is just chemically really weird after you have a kid, and for some people it's really easy for them to bounce back. And for some people, their body just takes a lot longer to adjust. And yeah, just don't feel like it's something that you can't or shouldn't talk about. And just yeah, reach out to the people that you love for help. Yeah,
Definitely. Yeah.
yeah.
I mean, and I think there's a lot of societal standards that makes women feel like they shouldn't feel this way. Like
Hmm.
it's every pregnancy is different, every birth is
Hmm.
different, every woman's going to be different on the recovery. And
Hmm.
so yeah, if that's what's happening, then it's okay for that to be happening, and it's okay to ask for help.
Yeah, yeah. I think that's it. It's weird because before I had it, I was like, yeah, if I have like postpartum, like I'll just go ahead and ask on for that help. Super easy. But then when it's like happening to you, you're like the chemicals in your body are basically like, no, don't ask for help. Like it's this super bizarre thing where we're like, yeah, I guess I had never felt depression before that, but I think it's probably really similar to how other people feel depression, that isn't related to having a baby, is that like they don't want to talk about it, and like they're like the hormones in their body are basically like, nope, keep this to yourself. You should be embarrassed and ashamed, and you shouldn't read. You know what I mean? It's like you can't logic your way out of it. It's purely this hormonal emotional thing, and it's you can't like white knuckle it. Like,
Yeah.
that's like not how it works. So
Right. No, that's great. I mean, I'm sure that can really help some people,
mhm.
and going through that. Um, wow. This conversation went all kinds of places. Is there anything else you want to plug or get out there, or any information you want to depart on us?
I think I'll just, like plug my website, flattrackfuries.com. And then I also have a Facebook page. It's just slash flattrackfuries. I'm on Twitter as Moriah Pariah, and that's my Instagram handle as well. But I mostly post my updates on my Facebook page. And sorry, on my Facebook page. So if you're looking for updates or like new issues, that's usually where I post that stuff.
Awesome. And you can also get Flat Track Furies on Comixology.
Mhm.
We
The first
we
issue.
Yeah, the first issue. Are the other issues on there? I haven't
No,
checked since we got the first one.
I submitted and then I had to fix something and then I never.
Oh, interesting. Yeah, that's strange that they would add the first issue but not the others.
Oh no, I needed to fix something. Like there
Oh,
was an issue with my bleeds. Um,
okay.
and then I just like never did it. I should
Well, get
probably
that on there.
I should probably go ahead and put that on the to-do list, Stanley. Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah, we go in, we double dip. So we get the books and then we go in Comixology and we add it to our library. So you get that double hit from us.
Oh my gosh, you doubled it. Well, thank you. That's very sweet of you. I really appreciate it.
Well, thanks for doing this. I really appreciate this. And um, yeah, everyone just check out Moriah Hummer, Flat Track Furies. And what was the website again?
Oh, just
FlatTrackFuries.com?
flattrackfuries.com. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Awesome. It was great talking to you.
Great talking to you too, Stanley. Say hi to the family for me.
I will. Take care.
Bye.
Bye.